Alana Cerrone O'Hare.
And I'm Nick Millard.
Welcome to PVD POV, where we bring you new insights into the coolest little city in the smallest state.
Whether you're a local looking to uncover hidden gems or a visitor eager to dive into our vibrant culture, we've got you covered.
Each week, we'll be chatting with the movers and shakers here in Providence, from restaurant owners to hoteliers and everyone in between.
And today is a special episode of PVD POV because we have an announcement. It's not our announcement. It's already been announced, but we like to say we got the inside scoop first.
Yep, you heard it here.
We've known about this for a while, but it's finally announced. We talked with Dan Schwartz and Amanda Bonafine about the announcement of their new comedy festival, Little Rhody Laugh Riot.
Yes, it was just announced a couple of days ago, and it is going to be so much fun. I'm so excited that something like this is coming to Providence.
It's the first one.
The first.
For in Rhode Island, at least. I mean, I know there's a lot of comedy festivals. There's a lot of like comedy shows and everything, but this is the first like bigger one.
This is like a big deal because you've never seen anything like this here. It's 3 or 4 days of comedians, and wait until you hear this all-star lineup of comedians, because whether you are into comedy or not, you have definitely heard of at least a few of these comedians. They're coming to venues throughout the city. Nick, do the honors.
I mean, it's the biggest name, which we actually didn't even get a chance to talk about on the podcast because it wasn't even confirmed. This is how soon we did this podcast.
Exactly.
That was just announced. Probably say the biggest comedian here so far, unless they can get some of the other ones that we might have talked about, is Kevin Hart. And he's going to be closing out the festival on the last day, which is awesome. I'm pretty sure they said he's going to be a PPAC.
I think so.
And then we got Leslie Jones. We have Chris DiStefano and a couple of other places.
He is one of my favorites. Chris DiStefano is someone that my husband and I discovered, I think it was on Instagram. He's come to Providence quite a few times at the Vets. I'm pretty sure it was a sold-out show. I mean, there was no room. And he is so funny. I love hearing the stories about his kids, because he has at least one young child, so it's very relatable. I think he's from New York or New Jersey. He is like one of my favorites. I'm so excited to see him again.
I'll have to check him out because I haven't heard of him. There's a couple on here that I don't really know because I'm not too in the pulse of comedy and stuff like that. But I definitely like the comedians that you can kind of relate to more, which is great. So I'll have to check him out. You know, sometimes you see a comedian and they're just kind of like, it doesn't really hit the mark that well because they're just like complaining about everyday things.
As people with kids, you'll definitely relate to him.
Yes.
And the other fun thing, Nick, we also just announced here on this PWCVB side, this is happening in conjunction with the first ever Providence Culinary Collective, which is a food and wine festival that we're bringing to the city for the first time. And so we'll have plenty of details to share on that on another podcast. But this one is going to be directly about the comedy festival. You'll hear it from the people who are organizing the entire thing. So turn us up, get ready to experience Providence from a whole new perspective. So excited to be joined by Dan Schwartz and Amanda Bonafine from the Vets and PPAC. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having us. Thank you.
So let's dive right into this very exciting news that you just announced, a major festival coming to Providence this March.
Hot off the presses.
Hot off the presses. Yes. Tell us more.
So March 27th through the 30th, we'll be bringing Little Rhody Laugh Riot to Providence for the first time, which will be a 4-day comedy festival taking place all over the city, at the Vets, at PPAC, at the Rhode Island Comedy Connection, and other pop-up venues across the city. So it's really going to be a new event to the city that's just going to kind of introduce so much comedy and content, but just going to get people to the city to be able to laugh and just, get out and have a good time.
And Dan is being very modest because if you missed their announcement, the lineup of stars that they have already confirmed is off the charts.
It is studded. Star-studded.
Star-studded, if you will. So give us some of the highlights of some of the amazing comedians that you've confirmed so far.
So we're excited to kick the festival off Thursday with Josh Johnson, who's one of the biggest up-and-coming comedians right now. So that'll be on Thursday the 27th. We also have Leslie Jones coming to Providence for the first time. We have Chris DiStefano.
My personal favorite.
Hannah Berner will be making an appearance during the festival. And another exciting piece to this is we're creating content and shows that you can't see anywhere else. And Amanda's really kind of taken a leap on creating these Triple the Laughs, which is kind of combining 3 different comedians that complement each other, but being able to create a show that you can't go see in any other festival or market around the country. So we're excited for these Triple the Laughs, which will contain a whole slew of different comedians.
Yeah, tell us about that. Some of which are, all the way to Melissa Villaseñor, who was a sketch star on SNL. So, I mean, they definitely have notoriety, but it's comics that may not tour throughout the Northeast, because they don't have the same name recognition that some of the bigger heavy hitters that we brought in. But we really want to make it an event for everyone. There's something for everyone to see from top to bottom, you know what I mean? From the cheap, affordable to the bigger names that maybe you would go into major cities to see. And for us, it was important to try to pick a time frame that was easy to get in and out of New England. We're all kind of getting a little bit itchy. We want to go and see something that time of year. It's super affordable to get into. I love to see festivals. I travel all over the world to see them. One of the biggest deterrents to me is that they happen to constantly fall on holiday weekends.
I hate that.
And it makes it so ineffective to be able to go because it costs a lot of money. You're away from your family and your friends. The flights alone, if you can even get them.
Airfare is insane on holidays.
So it's important to note that you can come into Boston, you can come into Hartford, you can go into New York, and you can obviously come into Providence. It's literally planes, trains, and automobiles to get you here. And the thing that I also love is that we're really working alongside the city. So we want people to come in and feel just immersed into the city. Like you are coming and you are experiencing Providence, from our incredible food and wine to the history to going up to, Federal Hill, and experiencing all the venues that we have as well. It feels like for me, after working in downtown for 17 years, we're building community. And that's really important, I think, coming out of what we're all coming out of right now.
That's part of our mission too, not just for something like this, a comedy festival like this, but every day we want people to not just come here for an event or for a dinner and then leave. You want to be part of the city's culture. And so the CVB's inaugural Culinary Festival will be taking place at the same time, which could not be a more perfect relationship and pairing, because the Culinary Festival largely takes place during the day. Your events are mostly afternoon into the night. So it's really going to be a great weekend in the city. Otherwise, like March, is hit or miss because the weather can still be kind of cruddy, but it's going to be an amazing weekend in the city. But what I found interesting was this kind of like science behind booking comedians. So you don't just really like reach for like, oh, who's the hot like act, you want to get this person in, but you had to make the right combination of artists for the city and have them kind of like vibe together.
Yeah. That I think when we started putting together the lineup, it was really important to us to make sure that we had something for everyone, without alienating to the fact where you're like, it's a festival, but there's only one show I want to go to. My hope is to build trust with the audiences that come to say, you know what, I went and saw that Triple the Laughs with Andy Whittle and Alec Flynn and Tone Bell, and I've never heard of any of those guys. And it was an incredible show. And so, you know what, I'll definitely buy to the Triple the Laughs next year, or I'll take a risk and I'll go see Josh Johnson. Because, again, some of these names have never played. Most of the names on our lineup this year actually have never played our city.
And one thing we're proud about too is having the sense of community. Bringing in these big headlines that travel the country and travel the world performing, but we're really taking an effort to look at those that are from Providence, from New England, that have been performing at venues all over the city for years, and how this festival can also be a home for them to showcase their routine, to showcase their talents, and also, combine that with the national headlines. So we're excited that there's also a strong sense for the community-based comedians to be a part of this festival.
Yeah, and just to piggyback on that, most people, if you're not aware, Rogue Island is one of a comedy festival that takes place in the state. And Doug, who runs that festival, has done an excellent job. I mean, it's been going on for 10 years. That's no small feat for any festival. And we're very proud to say that Doug's going to be working with us from the ground up. It's important to us, again, to be working with the local community and not taking from. So, the idea being that our events are going to build off of one another. So Doug's still going to continue to do his 2 festivals around Memorial Day and Labor Day. And then you can always, every March, continue to look to coming down Providence and supporting the comics here too.
And that's the thing. The hope is to have this be an annual event, so you guys can have them, different artists here every year.
Absolutely. Keep it in your calendar. These are the dates every year.
End of March every year.
End
of March. Well, we'll make sure we'll look forward to the end of March every year for that too. Do you guys want to chat a little bit about like why, where this idea came about, like kind of like how it started, like if it was someone's idea or if it was like just something that's been like brewing in the background for a while, or?
I'll say, from my standpoint, selfishly, I love to go to a festival, so why wouldn't I want it here? But for someone who also travels a lot, Rhode Island is so underrated for how much we have to offer. And again, I've lived quite a few states, but there is not that mom and pop feel like you get here. It's a wonderful feeling to support your local businesses. And you go to these conferences and they'll want you to talk on these panels about putting these artists on your stage and how, we're developing artists, brand development and, economic impact and all these things. But at the end of the day, it really is about you're building those relationships and you're at the table and you're hustling and you're trying to get those names. And hopefully in this case, we want to expand and show these artists and agents and managers all that we as promoters have to offer, but also the state of Rhode Island has to offer. Because at the end of the day, most of these are just going to go to where the money speaks. You know what I'm saying? It's up to us to kind of educate as to why you should be playing
like
our
the
stuff.
Bostons and the
Correct.
New Yorks and stuff.
Yeah, they're going to go to the major cities, so it takes a lot for us to try to convince them to want to come to a state like.
And I see that a lot with music too, especially you get the bigger names. They don't really come to Rhode Island all that much too, and it's very unfortunate. So it's nice for something like this to be able to get those bigger names into Rhode Island for sure.
And I would say too, comedy really has become like the identity for the Vets. The Vets was built in 1926. And, you have great theaters like PPAC and Trinity Rep that have a lot of great theatrical presentations. And you have the Rhode Island Comedy Connection, which is known for comedy. But there's not like that next step of a venue that's known for comedy. So, with the renovations that the Vets has undergone the last 10 years, comedy is kind of really where we've kind of said, this is kind of like a niche we can kind of fill and see if we can build upon that. And Amanda and our team, we've really been working on that. And, especially going into COVID, we had kind of built this, reputation up, and then the pandemic hit. And then we kind of go into these YouTube and podcasts, all these different comedians that have just blown up during COVID. And we've seen that kind of come about after we've emerged from the pandemic. And now it's like, how do we put this into a singular event that's special, that's really kind of not just a show, but really like a community-wide event that just celebrates and enjoy each other's company.
You look forward to every year. For me, there's a festival I fall in love with. It becomes a part of my year. Every year, I look forward to it. And to me, this is one I want. My intention, my hope will be that it's a low lift for people to want to do every year. You can afford to come. Bring your family down. You can afford to come. You can see these shows and be a part of a community and see how special this is that we're building. Because I can tell you, I've gone into cities and it's like, well, where do I eat? What restaurants are even open this time of year? Where do I, and the fact that the city's on board and we're doing these events together, having the food and the wine, there's going to be beer gardens, there's going to be wine tastings,
Exactly.
there's going to, like food trucks all throughout the city. It's just, you're not going to want to miss it. It's a really exciting time of year.
That's what makes it the festival that you want to go to versus like, I'm going to Providence because this comedy festival's happening, but there's nothing else to do,
Right.
So that's where we come in to really make sure that every second of their visit here is fun. So I've seen, numerous comedians at the Vets, in Comedy Connection for sure, but you ever get feedback from them about performing in Rhode Island? Do they like it as opposed to some of the bigger venues and the bigger stages?
I would say they love it. From my interaction with them backstage, I always try to go back and make sure they have what they need, that they're comfortable and that they're excited for their performance. And it's amazing the feedback you get, because a lot of times they've never been to Providence, or they may have never been to the Vets or been to PPAC, and they don't realize how beautiful our venues are and how energetic our crowds are. So usually before the show, they're somewhat a little nervous because they're going to perform in front of 2,000 plus people. And after the show, they come back saying, this was an amazing show. Like, I can't wait to come back. And it's just nice to kind of hear that. And I think that's kind of also led to our successes because, it is somewhat of a small community amongst the agents and the comics. And when they're coming here, they're just literally just having such a great experience. And we're encouraging them to go to the different restaurants. They're always asking, where can I go for this type of a cuisine or this type of a cuisine? And Providence has so many things to offer, no matter what you're looking for. And that's why it's great to kind of have this like one event that kind of combines so many things that Providence is known for.
And one of the big things too that we've been fighting, and I would say that we've really successfully kind of made broader strokes on, is getting those comics to come outside of Boston and the casinos. What people don't realize, being the smallest state in the Constitution, we look like we're right next. We're an hour. We're realistically an hour, pretty much, to get to the casinos and to get to Boston. And we all know Rhode Island people don't leave, but the other people are not necessarily coming in either. So I think, to Dan's point, when they come and then they play, they're blown away. I'm going to use the agent's word. We don't think Providence is a sexy market. But then they come and they're like, wow, this is kind of Boston-esque.
Exactly.
Like we also had comics and managers and agents that were concerned at first, saying, we're going to put all these comics on one weekend. Do you know how much comedy we do? I don't think they're looking at our calendar to realize how much we are already doing. The market's hungry. You guys are telling us you want to come out. You're telling us you want a festival. And I think that we're just kind of meeting the market where they're at.
The audience is here for it, it seems, whether it's because of the young people, but we're also, like you said, we're an hour from Boston, an hour from the casinos in Connecticut, but we're so accessible. And so for that entire bubble between those two destinations, which is all of Rhode Island, right? And then southeastern Massachusetts, and it's just such an accessible, easy destination for them. They see that this festival's happening, and maybe they're familiar with Providence, and they say, perfect, make it a night, grab a hotel room, and they'll see that there's a culinary festival. Maybe they'll make it a weekend, if they want to see several shows throughout the course of the weekend. That's what we're hoping. And that's what we think that this weekend has the potential to be.
Yeah, and especially with pairing it with the food festival too, like that with the culinary festival. Hopefully, you guys can go out, have something during the day, go to one of the food trucks and stuff like that too, and then plan on having, go to a show at night. It's a dinner or show. I mean, come on, there's nothing better than that too. And to wrap it all.
Well, and the important thing too, which we haven't even touched on, is there's an app that you can go to that's going to tell you everything that's going on throughout the city. Literally, from the beer gardens to the tastings to every single show. And with that culinary angle, they'll keep an eye out, because there's going to be some surprise pop-ups, hopefully throughout the city, and maybe some locations that you haven't seen a show before. So an app.
I think we're going to have them back on the podcast later once we'll drop some more numbers
exactly
here.
Because you're still confirming people in your lineup, and so that'll be exciting news in the months to come for sure.
Absolutely.
As of right now, we have about 14 headliners locked in, and that's just hitting the surface. So
what's the count for what you're aiming for? What's the reach goal, I guess?
I don't know if I thought about that.
Well, originally, to be honest, the blueprint was only going to be the Vets and a couple shows at the club. And once we started making offers, like you guys have seen the names we've got, people were like, you guys are swinging so big. Like, we need larger capacities, and the hunger was there. So we started making offers for PPAC as well. And anyone who loves Rhode Island and loves the state knows the important and special place that Providence Performing Arts Center has in everyone's hearts. So it's very cool for us to bring that on. And hopefully down the line, our hope and our mission would be to grow it to where we would be doing headliners even at the AMP. We want to grow it to be a major festival. And this year, I would say we've already kind of outdone ourselves as far as what we thought we were going to be able to do on the lineup side.
I mean, for a first year, this is a big lineup of some great comedians here, and I think people are going to be excited once they. I mean, obviously they're already excited because they've already heard the announcement, but even now,
seriously,
this and if you can get some more great headliners, because I know you get the feelers out for some more, I think that'll be great too.
Yeah, I mean, Rhode Island, I would say, has always been known for like the Newport Jazz Fest, Newport Folk Fest, and Providence as a city doesn't really have, you have PVD Fest and some great events, but something like this that's really going to just kind of draw people into a comedy specific festival.
Hopefully they can be our jazz fest.
So exactly. I have to say too, I mean, I don't know that I understood the importance of comedy and laughter until I started booking the Comedy Festival in Aspen about a decade ago. And through that, I really fell in love with all of what it is and the showmanship of what comedy is. And while I still love to go to concerts, and that's always going to be my passion and my love, I think I've learned and I see the importance that laughter has in everyone's everyday and why we need that and how it's very different. You can go to a concert and you can still connect with people, but it's very different, the feeling you feel when you leave after laughing and just leaving it all. I mean, you can't think about anything else when you're laughing like that.
I think the pandemic really did that too. And these comedians that came up on social media, like I think that Chris DiStefano was one of them. That's how I discovered him.
Yeah.
And people were just desperate for something happy and funny that they could watch from the comfort of their home. And now he's a huge star, right? And comedy, it seems like it's bigger than ever. And to see that there's this market for it. So you used to book in Aspen. How will this festival compare to some other comedy festivals, in case people listening are?
I would say, it's going to have the blueprint of a festival that you love. It's going to have smaller things from free to, the higher end things, but it's also, we definitely want to make sure that you get to go out and be throughout the city and experience different venues. I think that's an important part of a festival. I also think letting them experience the city and fall in love with everything that the city has to offer, because while the lineup's great, the lineup is going to change every year. You want someone to fall in love with the state and the city just as much, because that's going to bring them back.
We did not pay Amanda to say
No,
that.
I mean, but also if she's looking for a job at some point, maybe.
No, seriously though, that I think for us, I know for me, that's a huge thing. I want to go back to a place that I love to visit. We get limited time. Our downtime is so far and few in between for all of us. We're constantly attached to our cell phones. You come to a weekend like this, it forces you to kind of be present. And I think that's exciting for us too.
And we're also reaching, further than we normally do for advertising a show. Typically we stay within the Providence market, but for this, we want people to come into the city, we want them to stay overnight. We'll have hotel packages and things like that, but we want people to come over from Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, Massachusetts, Connecticut, and all the way further south. We want this to be like New England staple comedy festival, because there isn't one like it.
I was going to say, is there one in the market?
No, not to this level. And even on the stuff that we're putting together, like we intentionally went after things that you can't see. Like the names I put on Triple Laughs. You can't buy a ticket to that anywhere else in the country. That's a bill that we just made for this festival. And we have two of those. One's an all-female lineup and one's an all-male lineup. And Leslie Jones. When's the last time you saw her on anything? She doesn't do a lot.
And
to
it was
me,
the first time here, you said too, right?
That makes it special. It's her first time in the market, yes. Hannah Berner, the other half of Giggly Squad. You don't want to miss her. She's hilarious.
So can you explain the Trip of the Laughs? How does that work, like booking? What do people get?
So we went and I offer each of them a guarantee, a certain guarantee, and then they have a certain set. So in this case, maybe you have a comic that doesn't have an hour-long show, but they have a solid 20, 30 minutes. And you've seen that 20, 30 minutes on, Alec Flynn, for example, he had millions of hits on YouTube. You may have never heard of him. I didn't. I go and listen, and he's funny. The guy deserves a shot, So you give this guy 20, 30 minutes, and each one of them, now you have a unique show that, you can't see elsewhere, because Alec hasn't played Comedy Connection.
Right.
So some of these, they're getting to come in, and they also are getting taken care of. Like other festivals, I can tell you right now, I know they don't. And they don't want to do it anymore, because you're a struggling artist. How can you afford to go in on your own dime and you're not making anything? I don't blame them.
Yeah, you need that big break.
We're taking care of them.
Yeah.
And that's a big part of what we want to do for this festival. We want them to want to come back and to talk to their friends, because that's what happened in Aspen.
And those Trouble Laughs are really great opportunities for us to incorporate the local comedians. We're looking for a local host to host those shows, in between each artist, somebody to go out for a couple minutes and kind of do like a little 5-minute set. So some of the local comedians who are playing 30-seat, air venues around the city, this will give them a true theater experience with national talent to really kind of get their brand out there as well.
Good for them.
Which is something that we're proud about too.
I love watching a comedy show, but I cringe at the idea of anyone ever not laughing.
Yeah.
Like I could never do. I would rather be like a surgeon than a comedian.
And it's so nervous. It's so funny too to see these guys come into our rooms that are like, for example, PPAC, you guys know, was a Broadway house. Right. So you have Brett Goldstein come out, and PPAC's rated one of the top 20 most beautiful historic theaters in the country. And Brett comes out and he looks at it and he looks around and he's like, this place is too effing beautiful for me. I shouldn't be out here. I don't think I'm allowed to be performing here.
It really is. I love that kind. I love when we get that dichotomy of gorgeous, ornate, historic PPAC, and then these
The brash comedy.
Yeah, they're like, we don't belong here, but it's like, and again, that how cool is that for us to say now we have people that are coming in our doors that may never have seen a show there. And so that, again, I think that's the festival. My hope is going to be to branch out again, to show people everything that we have to offer from the programming, but to, like I said, the food and wine scene. And I think this is just hopefully the first of many to come.
We agree. Hopefully an inaugural March festival, food, wine, and comedy. Can you explain a little bit more about where people can go to get tickets, how that whole process works?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, a lot of the events will be at the Vets, PPAC, and the Comedy Connection, but we are kind of creating its own identity for this festival. So if you go to Little Rhody Laugh Riot, that's LILRHODYLAUGHRIOT, LittleRhodyLaughRiot.com.
That's a mouthful.
It's a mouthful,
It's a mouthful.
But it is the name of the festival, and we're very proud that it'll have its own website, which will have all of the events listed. So whether you're going to see a show at the Vets, at PPAC, at the Comedy Connection, or any other venues we have established around the city, everything will be available for you in that one location, in addition to hotels and all of our partners at the CVB that they've established with the festival as well.
Yeah, we'll certainly have all the info too on GoProvidence.com, and hotel packages, I'm sure, will be important, because who wants to go to the comedy show and then leave? You want to stick around, have drinks.
Right, yeah,
Right.
come on.
And this, like we said, anyone that buys to it too, we haven't put this out there yet, but they also will be receiving lanyards. And on the back of that, we'll have a QR code that will bring you to the app that we told you guys about. And that's going to show you everything we have going on in the city. It will bring you to what we have, if it's a free pop-up or if you can buy a ticket to blank. And just to hit back on the name, the reason why it's such a mouthful, it was important to us that people knew what it was. Yep. Moon Tower, I bet you don't know what that is.
No.
It's a comedy festival out in Austin.
Right.
You'd never know that. Right. So we wanted people to know. And it's the funny part is, though, on our side, the agents have been coining it as Little Rhody. They're not calling it Laugh Riot. They're calling it Little Rhody, which we love.
Hey, maybe it might just morph into that Little Rhody at the end of the day.
No, it kind of broken down, and our team is calling it LRLR.
Yeah. I did see that in the email. Yeah, they like calling it LRLR for whatever. I don't like it personally, but Little Rhody is for me.
That's great. I think the app that you guys are going to have is going to be super helpful for when people are here too, because that's just to be able to look at that and not have to go onto the website, or they can just have all the accessible stuff there, especially if you're like, I got 2 hours in between before I go see someone at the
we wanted to take the thinking out of it. When I went to Montreal, it's like I spent half my time in between trying to I want to go and have an amazing dinner and be able to get a good and go see a show. But if you can't find that and you're doing all the research on your own, we're taking that guesswork out.
No, that's perfect. That's great. I think most places should probably do the same too. I think we should start this
people love an app.
This fat
app.
Yes.
Well, we can thank GoProvidence for the assistance with that as well.
Well, you're welcome. We're always here to help. There's Nick and I. We had nothing to do with it.
Yeah, I had nothing to do with it, but hey, if we're helping out, that's great. Us.
Well, we're really, really excited, and I know that we'll be talking to you again, Dan and Amanda, in the coming months leading up to the Little Rhody Laugh Riot. But we want to thank you again for being here, talking to us a little bit more about the Comedy Festival. Congratulations on all of this early success. And for more details, you heard Dan, LittleRhodyLaughRiot.com, or you can head to GoProvidence.com.
Yes. Well, thank you guys very much for being on the show.
Thank you. Look forward to seeing you guys in March.
PVD POV is a podcast hosted by the Providence Work Convention and Visitors Bureau in collaboration with the College of Hospitality Management and Center of Media Production at Johnson & Wales University. Hosts are Alana Cerrone O'Hare and Nick Millard. Production by Professor Brian Lavin with assistance from the graduate students in tourism management. Episodes are available wherever you download your podcasts. Visit GoProvidence.com for more information on these stories and everything else Providence.